Flex Lewis here, straight out of the Lair. What's up, guys? Episode 13, straight out the Lair. We are back, myself and my wife, Ali Lewis.
Hello.
From your guys' special request. We are doing a part 2. We're not calling it a part 2, though, right? What are we calling this episode?
I don't know yet. Maybe couples advice or relationship.
Yeah, we'll come
stuff.
up with what name it's going to be titled. But Love and Bodybuilding was the last one. If you guys haven't checked it out, we're going to put the link below. And this is why we're back. I'm very appreciative of everybody who has messaged us, commented, and said that was their favorite episode.
Or people in the gym, actually. I feel like a lot of people in the gym that we don't really know because they're not members or they're just here on day passes has been like, oh, I really like that podcast. I'm like, oh, which one? You know? And then they're like, oh, the one with you and Flex talking about, your relationship. That
is true.
Really? I was like, it's great. You
know? And it's probably the least viewed one, but one of the most commented one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
So obviously it's not your hardcore roll up your sleeve, turn your heart back to front, get to know the athlete person. But I think it's because we're talking about it from a relatable aspect. Mm-hmm. We've done it, we've been there, we're still doing it.
Yeah.
That people sat down and enjoyed it. So welcome back for another episode of that. And thanks to you guys, we took questions that we asked for in the comment section. Down below, Ali is not privy to these. I've had a quick little scan, I'm not going to lie to you. I had a quick little scan, but doesn't mean my answer is going to get any better. But we're here, and I have comprised, some notes, thanks to Bronson. Shout out to Bronson in the working in the back there, making us all look good. Crazy filter on me. And we're going to answer spitfire these questions or answer them in depth.
Okay.
So, you want to go from the top?
Sure. I haven't seen them, so.
Well, before we go on that, I think we should fill everybody in on, since we're kind of talking from the personal standpoint. Not Doug, obviously. Doug Green's not here. This is just kind of our relationship podcast. So, first day today was for our daughter in kindergarten. I mean, in school. I'm sorry, kindergarten. First day, first grade.
Yeah.
So it was great to, send her off to school. I will say, though, she's very excited about going back to school. I don't know.
Yeah, she likes school.
Yeah, she's not like me. But, and then baby Max, because I know everybody asks me in my, DMs and when I do these Q&As, how the baby's doing.
He's great.
Up. He's a big boy.
He is a big boy. He's great. He sleeps. He's happy. He's content. He's fed. As long as he's fed, he's good. So. Yeah,
he's been growing like a weed. He's on that nature's milk. Unfortunately, I didn't discover any of that when I was in prep. Otherwise, I could potentially still be doing the Mr. Olympia. But that's a story for another fucking podcast. Let's jump into it?
Sure.
There we are. All right. Number 1. 3 biggest threats to a relationship in our industry today and how to navigate through them.
Okay. Well, I know right off my top of my head, I'd say threats to a relationship. One would be Instagram, and not Instagram as a whole. I would say the fact that you compare yourself, and I don't really think this is just our industry, but if we're just going to try to pigeonhole it, people do their highlight reels, right? And so you see people posting about their relationship and how happy they are, or certain things like that, and you tend to compare yourself to what someone else is doing, right? Based on their posts. I would say one threat is that social media in general, whether it's YouTube videos put out or Instagram, it's that highlight reel type of concept that you compare yourself. That would be one of mine. One of our threats, I think, is that comparison. I mean, and we're one. Okay. Am I doing them all?
I want to hear your threats, since I might be fucking taking notes here myself.
I'm trying to think. Another one.
Learn, guys.
Could be. I I don't know. I mean, maybe my biggest thing, like we said last time, was communication. So maybe holding in what you're thinking, and maybe speaking to someone else about it that is in our industry and they give advice. And then sometimes it's not really the best person to speak to and you don't get sound advice. So that would be one thing, like communicating to your significant other what's going on, and not make assumptions. I think that's my third is don't make assumptions, because when you assume, nothing good comes out of that. So I feel like the assuming, the assumptions, and the communication kind of go hand in hand. Don't assume if they're upset at you, right? Maybe they just can't communicate to you why they're upset or what's going on. So those would really be mine, is not comparing yourself, don't assume, and communicate.
Sliding in the DMs, guys. There's a lot of girls also. I mean, fucking hell, there's girls worse than guys, but let's just keep it on the guys, because since I'm a male, sliding in the DMs because, you want to get that flirtatious conversation going. It's only going to turn one direction, and it's not bad. Now, your girl sees you texting somebody, and, next thing is like, show me your phone. You got like 5, 6 girls that you're friends with.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a genuine friendship, but if you are starting that communication, then it only leads to one of two things.
Yeah. A
friendship or more. You start liking these photos, and then your girl picks up the Instagram and says, why are you liking this girl's photos? Why are you all over this chick? Like, how do you know her? I don't. So why the fuck you liking her photos?
Yeah.
That's one thing that, is not going to end good for you guys. In terms of, what was the question again? 3 biggest threats to relationships in our industry and how to navigate through them.
That's one.
Yes, one. I'm just adding to your 3.
Yeah.
But I think also trying to, always be the vocal point in the relationship. Whether it's 2 guys, or maybe 2 guys, a girl and a guy, or guys or 2 girls, whatever the variable is. No pronouns involved here, because I will be all day. Then, if you're trying to be the king of the castle, the queen of the castle in that relationship, it's like, no, I'm the one that should be shooting this content. I'm the one that should be having, all the limelight. It's not going to go down well, especially when I have 2 athletes. I know we kind of touched on this subject before, because when you and I got together, we both were competing at the time. You just were in school.
Yeah.
And I just you ended your stage life. I continued mine.
Right. But it's a 2-way street, what you're saying.
Yeah, but not once did I ever try to, supersede whatever you were doing.
Right.
Or try and make it all about me. And another thing also is this, when you're in prep, that is something you have done. You have put yourself in prep. And in a relationship, you can't use the excuse of, I'm dieting. I'm sorry. Just hold on for another 6 weeks. Fucking hell. How many times have we heard that? You know how I am when I'm cutting weight too. So there's James, and then there's Flex.
And then there's Prep
Lewis. But at least right?
Well, it took time, though. It's not like, I got a handbook and was like, this is how I'm going to be. Read it. And then
my ex didn't tell you?
No. No, she didn't leave that handbook.
But it doesn't mean to say that, I'm not speaking up, on my own behalf here, but it doesn't mean to say that,
it's an excuse.
It's an excuse to be that asshole, right?
Right.
Well, some guys will use that. Oh, I'm taking this supplement and I can be excused for taking that. I'm not going to name the certain supplements, but a lot of these guys will take this and turn into,
not a great person.
CUNTs.
Yeah.
And they use it as the excuse. Oh, it's not me, it's this. It's not, you're the fucking asshole.
I want to add something, though, too, that your first threat, which was the DMs or liking, I think ultimately, if you go back to why people are doing it, is because they're missing something in their own relationship. Mm-hmm. They're seeking something. It's attention. It's usually attention. And I'm no relationship advice expert, but I've just seen this with people we know, and I'm sure everyone is experienced some form of wanting more from their significant other, whether it's attention, whether it's support, whatever that is. I feel like that's really when people's minds start to go, and that double click is just so easy. You didn't do anything, right? You're just double clicking. It's a cool photo. It was in your gym. It was whatever, whatever reasoning you can justify it. Deeper is usually you're lacking something from your significant other, and you need to communicate that with them. Like, listen, I feel like you don't really pay attention to me when you come home, or I feel like I don't get enough time with you. And I feel like that's really why those people are straying, because they're just are not communicating what their need is, and it's so easy to double click and to hide behind a computer screen and write a little message or like, good job. And yeah, they're all harmless, but why are you doing it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Or if you flip the script, would you like it if your chick was doing that? And the answer would probably be no to a lot of these guys. And we do know them. There's people we either know very closely that we're doing things like that. And that's their thing. We're not coming in to say, you do you live your life. But ultimately, there's a reason why that's getting done, and usually it's to fill some void. So I would say, that all goes back to, if you're not happy in your relationship, try to fix it. If not, leave. It's like there's
Bottom line.
There's no reason to cheat on someone or to stick around or do some shady ass shit. If you're just not happy, okay. There's a lot of people in this world. It didn't work out. Move on. To be, unethical and do things that are just like fucked up. It just says more about you than anything else. So
yeah, and I will tell you also, there's a lot to be said when you can't be loyal to that one person that's loyal to you, right? If you're as a business owner, and I've been privy to a lot of different conversations. In some cases, do as I say, not as I do, right? But they'll use this as a tool of really getting to see the ethics of a potential business partner. So if you're going around fucking around and, you got your wife and your kids, and then you're out on the weekend and, you're messing around. And listen, you could be having fun with your guys. It's not what I'm saying. You could be, you could go to a strip club, but you're still coming home, right? But that's a whole different fucking rabbit hole. But I'm just saying, right? Yeah. You can still walk the edge. Yeah. But doing something is a different thing. Because once you do something, are you going to do it once or are you going to do it twice? It's the thrill of the chase, right? And most of that's what's happening. These guys are kind of trying to, on girls, are trying to push it as far as they can until when it's there. And it's like, oh, fuck, this is going to happen. They're going to do it. Fuck, hope I don't get caught out. They have the guilt trip the next day, but then a couple of weeks later, they're back onto it again.
But I think it's also that issue of the grass is greener, and it's not. Yeah. But you can go to the next one. I think we answered that one.
How to understand your partner's wants and needs in life, gym, business.
I think we semi-touched on this in that other episode.
Well, there's going to be a lot of referrals, so we'll just answer the questions if nobody's ever seen this.
I always default to communication. I mean, you gotta know what you want and need, first of all. Do you know what you really want and need? Which some people think they do. And it takes doing something and you're like, I don't really like this.
That's exactly it.
So sometimes you don't know what you want and need, to be completely honest. I think a lot of people don't until it's like trial and error. Like, oh, I want to be in this job, and then you don't like the job. So you won't know until you try. So I would say, testing out different things to find out what you want and need. If you already know and you're so certain, then you have to communicate that to someone. And the someone is your significant other, has to be responsive to it, And I think that's where is an issue. I think I personally can attest to, is that knowing how to communicate is a whole other dimension than just trying to communicate, right? Because some people do better by sitting down and talking. Some people want to read it, right, and write it. So I think it's just trying to figure out, all right, you know what you want and need. How can I tell my significant other that this is what I want and need without them taking offense?
Well, let's just say it's a new relationship then. Let's just take that. So you and I get together.
Yes.
You're a competitive athlete. Let's keep it within the space we're in.
Okay.
You compete, I compete. That's our common love. That's what's got us together. Now, if you stand to learn and know one another when you're in that honeymoon phase, what you kind of see that might irk you later on, it's kind of brushed under the rug because it's like, is he that guy or is she that guy? So how would you from an advice standpoint, want to see or learn that person's goals if you are struggling with communication? I mean, you're in the honeymoon phase, right?
Right.
Everything is fucking great,
Right.
you know, and you know that you've got these goals. Say you want to get together. Then I'll clarify this question a little bit more. Say you want to get together, but you're stubborn on your goals,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what you want to achieve in life, whether it's on the stage, off the stage. And she is too, right? I'll see it from the men's perspective.
Okay.
How do you go about kind of, you know, supporting one another while still on this trajectory of both trying to achieve, you know, pro status or pro wins?
I would say find the common ground, right? And that starts with you both have to train, right? They both need to do cardio, they both need to train, and they both need to eat food. So what are the things that like you'd enjoy doing together, or what are the things that you can separate to then be happier, right? That you're doing, for the other person.
Yeah.
And that's going to make the other person happy that their food's already there, or that they have someone to go do cardio with at night when they're like, oh, I don't want to do another cardio, so I think it's just kind of finding the commonalities, and then how can you support them in that commonality? It might be, don't do it with them. Mm-hmm. They get distracted, or it might be like, yeah, I need that support. I need you to come and do it with me,
Yeah,
so that's what I would say if it was like our industry based kind of ways you can support. Because I know there's times where I wouldn't do really morning cardio with you, but that second cardio when you're X weeks out, like 3-4 weeks out, and you're just dragging ass and it's pitch black at night, I'm like, well, this is also not safe. So I'm going to come with you just in case.
Yeah.
But it's a nice thing to do together, or it would also help me being like, okay, yeah, I don't really need to do a second cardio today, but I'll do it. And I'm not, mine isn't measured in the sense of intensity. It's like, I'm just going to do what you're doing to support you. Cause sometimes you would never really ask. And I feel like you never really asked me to go, but I could just tell by your body language that you were just fucked. And I was like, okay, if I go, we wouldn't even talk. We wouldn't talk, but it was just the fact that I was like present. I think probably said a lot to you, without having to say anything. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I walk fast too, so.
But not at night at 3 weeks out.
I'm probably telling you to keep up. No, but that's great advice. Of course, we're kind of targeting the competitive
The fitness
scene.
Yeah.
So another thing I would add to that is plan your cheat meals, your cheat days, whatever it is, around that day, and have that together. That's something you both can look forward to. We've done it ourselves. I remember when I done prep for the Olympia, that one day, that Saturday, it couldn't get you fast enough,
Yeah.
And we would be both very excited because that was the day, I pushed hard. That Friday was, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up. If I see this weight on the scales, then, I would have that cheat meal. Well, many times I try and talk myself out of that cheat meal, but you were like, fuck yes, you're having that cheat because I've been waiting too.
Yeah.
But we would enjoy it together.
Yeah.
Obviously, pre-kids, and even when we had Addie, and she was a baby, we'd still do the same thing.
Yeah.
Or we'd experience, or should we say, we'd share that experience with other couples to have that kind of the feeling of
Normalcy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something else I would say too. I don't know if I answered that question.
I think so.
But yeah, with the training side of things too, with us, we had a couple of sessions earlier, I would say honeymoon phase, but I'm too hardcore. And I was like, for our relationship, you kind of have to distance ourselves away. I've seen guys who are bodybuilders training with bikini girls. I mean, all shapes and sizes. And if you can do it, great. Some of these guys who have got, girlfriends who are in various different classes get their ass kicked by the girls, and if you have that chemistry and you can work well that way, go for it. If that's your kind of cheat meal connection, whatever it is, that aids and brings you closer and allows you to, Jose Raymond's calling me, allows you to, connect, but more so kind of bring you closer and keep that chemistry between you two great. But I've also seen it going the other way. When you and I were training together a few times, I remember pushing you on a couple of heavy sets. I was like, you have fucking 3 more reps. And you were like, and then you get huffy and puffy. And then we drive in home and I'm like, babe, what do you want to eat tonight? Or what we get?
I never did that.
Hey, What's wrong with you?
No, let's clarify. We weren't training together. You were training me. I feel like that's what you're talking about. So that's a big difference.
And there was a huffing and a puffing. I was like, hey, keep that shit in the gym. But you couldn't. You always brought it back.
These are all lies.
I'm telling you, hey, look at this face. Do you really think I would lie?
Bronson says yes. We'll take a poll.
Bronson knows. He's Team Flex. Moving on. But no, what I was saying is, if that works for you, great.
Yeah.
With us, it didn't. Only because we would go to the gym together. We would leave the gym together when we had one car, and we were kind of, going through that stage in the relationship. Or you were flying in, or I was flying in to see you.
Yeah.
We had that shared cards. We go to the gym together, but we'd separate because my mentality is a little extreme,
Yeah.
I have to have that tenacious, aggressive feeling when I train. So then to be doing a set and then having to snap out of it, it's like, hey, honey, your set, that doesn't work for me.
On vacation, though, sometimes we would train somewhat together, like next to each other.
the key word is vacation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, because on vacation you do want to go, but sometimes you're like, ugh.
You were also my bad cop when I was on vacation for all the fans that were trying to take pictures in the gym. But I'm always available, and that's another thing too. Is like when we're training and I'm interrupted. You weren't that bad cop when we were. I didn't want you to look like that person. So if I was training on my own, somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, Flex, whatever it was, can I get a picture?" I'd be like, "Yeah, no problem." I'd probably use you as a photographer.
Yeah.
But you weren't that bad cop, and I always try to protect you in that nature of making sure, even at expos, right? You are very good to be like, hey, get back in line or whatever else. That's why we hired security, because you didn't have to be that guy anymore. But next question. How to motivate one another in all aspects of life. We kind of covered a little bit of that, but motivate
Answer
one
it
another.
first. Why do I have to answer first?
Motivate one another. I guess we kind of touched a little bit, kind of rounding off that question. Motivating one another, as Ali said earlier, communication, right? Knowing what wants your significant other wants out of life. If she now wants to write a book, that person needs quiet time, that person needs to focus, and maybe the things of old need to change. That's another thing also we need to mention is it's evolution.
Yeah.
What worked for you and I when we were in our early 20s, when we were together, wouldn't work for us right now. We've had to evolve with one another. Things have happened, life has happened, kids have happened, businesses have happened. So when we have our time, we try to make sure that we separate the conversations about business, so we have our relationship. It's hard because we work together daily, but we really have tried. We've consciously recognized that we're taking business to bed with us. I will say this, my wife will decide as I'm exhausted in bed, she's like, tomorrow you have this appointment at 10. Don't forget, you have to call this. I'm like, babe, what the fuck? No, it's on my head. And she'd be like, good night, turn over, go to sleep.
I mean,
so for us, I've had to say, let's not talk about business in bed. But,
the motivation is a very interesting question, because some people tend to think motivation needs to come from within, right, and not external. And some will say that motivation is, well, you need to define your why. What's your why? And that should motivate you. So it's kind of like a loaded question, I think, that the word or the topic of motivation, because there are people who are super successful who feel like you should be your only motivation. No one else should, motivate you. But I agree. I think it all boils down to, though, knowing what you as an individual want, to know then what you would need, and if that is, not needing any external, distractions or pushing. Like, it might annoy someone if their significant other was like, "Come on, you gotta go do this. You said you said we want to reach your goal." Like, that might really annoy someone.
Piss me
well,
off.
But they think they're supporting you because they're like, "Yeah, this is what you want. You want Olympia, right?" Yeah. But some people do want that. So I think you kind of have to understand, is it going to come from within? And it might take that person doing it once and you saying, listen, I appreciate that support, but like, don't bring that word up to me every day in the morning when I do cardio. You know, I know it sounds rude because all they're doing is being very nice, right? And they're supporting and helping motivate you, but that's not your form of motivation. So I think finding out your why would help you to understand how to motivate yourself.
I got a couple more questions that kind of tie themselves in because you and I can't stick to
a topic.
Yeah, we go all over the place. We want to give you guys context, don't worry. But mood swings when in a relationship during prep. How to handle it with your significant other?
Gosh.
Look at me. I'm never moody in prep. Should I make some shirts that say prep Lewis?
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, there's no way to avoid them getting moody, right? I don't know. There's no like magic secret sauce to be like, well, if you do this, they won't get moody. It's going to happen. So I think the understanding of like knowing what to expect, you know, knowing that maybe at X weeks out, they're testy, they're this. So don't approach them with certain things, certain topics, certain questions at certain times. And it might be a time thing. I know you are not a morning person. Like that is just one thing Flex isn't. He might be physically up and doing his own thing, but he's not a morning person. So
I don't speak English until 10 a.m.
I am completely opposite.
Complete opposite, guys. Complete opposite.
I can wake up at 4 or 5 and I'm ready to do the 1,000,001 things that I have to do. So it's still to this day, you know, he comes out of the room and I'm like, okay, so... And it just, I could see that there's just earmuffs on. Like, he's just not even listening to me. So I think that goes to the same issue of being someone being moody. Knowing when they're moody, maybe it's heightened at a certain time, right? But you know it's going to come, right? So I think that's, knowing is half the battle. Knowing, okay, you know what, I know they're, like, on edge today, or I know it's this, you know, I'm just going to back off. I'm not going to expect them. I'm not going to get into a conversation that might lead them to get even more angry or mad or upset or frustrated. But then on the flip side, no offense, like you said, you chose this life, right? Yeah. You chose to do this prep. So, you know, if you can choose that, don't choose to be a fucking asshole either, right? So I think there's a little bit of both. Understanding that person when they're moody, the least moody, shall I say, and then straight up asking them like, hey, I need to have some serious talks with you, or we need to talk about how we're paying rent today, or whatever the issue or topic is, right? Like, I just threw that out. And then ask them, like, when is best for you to talk about this? Because I'm going to appreciate and respect what you're doing, but you have to, on the return, appreciate and respect the fact that I'm not here to just deal with someone moody all the time either.
Communication.
So, yeah, it all goes back to that, but just ask. I mean, there's no harm, no foul. When you call someone out on that, I think I could be wrong, but a light will go off and be like, oh, fuck, like, yeah, I'm being a dick right now. I need to stop and just, like, bite my tongue. And this goes with all aspects of life. You know, when people are, like, really nice and are doing really kind things, and you're thinking, like, oh, they don't have to do that. I can make my own breakfast or whatever. But stop and think.
Who's making you breakfast?
No, I'm just saying, like, in a situation, there are times, don't even start. There are times where people have offered, you have stayed at our house, have offered, oh, can I make you something? And you're like, no. And it's a nice gesture, and they'll always ask you. And I feel like at times you're like, oh, you know, you might be annoyed that they're asking, but it's a nice thing they're asking, right?
So if anybody stayed at my house and has offered me breakfast, and I've declined, and I'm secretly annoyed apparently. So
no, stop. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I have no fucking.
You have no clue.
No.
Okay, fine. Then
comment below if you understand what she's saying.
I'm just saying there are also times where people are doing something nice, and you know, your instant thing because you're just in a mood or a funk or prep, right? Listen, you're just people are trying to do nice things. They also might not understand.
No, they don't.
What prep is. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I think, you know, when you ask your significant other, like, well, what can I do, or when is the best time to talk to you? You know, about this situation would be helpful. It's very difficult to try to have somebody understand exactly what you said unless they've gone through, you know, the valley of death. You're right? When you get all your fucking energy source cut at the neck and there's very little fucking to eat. You're pissed off anyway because you're hungry, right? Thankfully, that was never much of an issue for me. Yeah. But I was still hungry without knowing it, but I had the symptoms of being just fucking moody, right? But I also knew
when I had Addie that it was self-inflicted. Right, I kind of used that card a little bit, not to sound like a fucking asshole here, but I wasn't I'm in prep, I can be excused for this. No, sometimes you just are tired, you got a lot of shit going on, and unfortunately you take it on the person that's the closest to you, right? So you could have eaten the last of the cream of rice or something, right? Where the fuck's my cream of rice, But I'm sure everybody who's watching this can agree right now, or they're looking at their significant other going, yeah, we've had that issue, or somebody has the last scoop of protein and you're 2 weeks out on ketchup. Yeah. We've all had it. We've all talked about it, And, there's a way of reacting to that with it being a prep version, or there's a way of overly reacting. And I've seen many a time where people have just overly reacted. And when they're off season, whatever else, it's like, wow, I destroyed the relationship by being that guy.
I think also too, it's sometimes fine to also like ignore them. I know that sounds like, if you need your space. I know that like breakfast time after cardio would be like your thing. You had your whole routine, like getting out of your way, like just like ignoring you or disappearing from the area you're in is also very helpful.
This is a fucking truth podcast.
Well, I'm just saying, these are things that I've done where I'm like, all right, I know he's coming back from cardio.
Let me hide.
Run.
Let me hide until he's eaten.
No, but I'm done with the kitchen. I don't need to be there because I know if I'm there, I'm going to start asking you questions too. It's like it's a control thing for me. Like, let me get out. I need to make sure he eats his breakfast. Then I can ask my question, or then I can ask something.
Prep Lewis.
But that is, it's true. I mean, whether I like consciously knew I was doing it at one point, right?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, let me just get out of the kitchen. Let him just do his thing so that he can eat. And then, that's what worked for us. But I think
there's nothing worse than having a house guest when you're so close to prep. Yeah. And then you wake up and they're,
happy,
stimmed up on caffeine and you just done fucking grueling hour of cardio, abs.
And you don't want to be rude and not say hi.
Like, hey, I'm like, that's when we had all the cameras. We've shot many different things over the years with the day in the life, so close to prep. And we've had, we had the documentary that was following us around. And that was difficult because, not only was it close to prep, but then we lost Dallas.
Yeah, that was hard.
So it was just like, oh my gosh. So I couldn't even,
And I just remember they were purposely asking you so many
Oh my
questions.
God, guys. So everybody who is, watching this, we're in the world, right? You understand. But then when you're eating breakfast and you're like 3 weeks out from the show and you're suffering to get into that weight class and they're asking you, so why you eat cream of rice?
Why do you do
why
it like
that? Why are you
that?
putting ketchup on? So tell me, how many bites is this going to take you today compared to yesterday? Do you count your bites? Is this actually tasty? That doesn't look good. And I'm like, oh my God. But listen.
You got good content, but yes, that was something.
You got to play the part. But this is about relationships, not about flex filming and in the house and, pretending to be nice to a house guest.
Moody.
When you realize that this is a show, you are committed to a process, committed to a look. If you don't have that significant other that has been there throughout the off season, who has been there through the hardest of times, and now you're turning against them because somebody didn't put the ketchup back in the fridge, then you need to take a reflective look at yourself.
Yeah.
And I think we've all kind of been like moody and grumpy and stuff, but some people, they need a reflective look at themselves. You made a point earlier that sometimes it's best to have that conversation where it's like, hey, listen, I don't appreciate, what happened today. Some people might take that wrong, right? You and I have had conversations, our relationship isn't fucking great. Gotta preface this. Our relationship is amazing, but it's great, it's amazing because we worked on things, but it's not perfect, right?
No.
We're always evolving. We're always trying to understand one another's needs. You just had a baby. That changed everything from us compared to when you were pregnant.
Or even having one kid.
The needs that you now require as not only a husband, but also from the business side, what I need to do that you can't do. Now, obviously, you're back in work, things are moving again, but still, you weren't where you were a year ago,
right,
before you were pregnant. So it's always about evolution. You can't be like, well, last year you were doing this for me, and now you're not. It's like, well, fuck me, bro. Like, your girl is not the same, and your guy isn't the same. There's other things that have happened in that time, and it could be one of a million things.
Yeah.
Unless you're turning into that fucking sloven guy, which I've seen a lot of bodybuilders turning into, where they donate all their shit to their wives, so their girlfriends go, oh, you cook better than me, so you can do it, or you do this, and then time goes on, and then this let's just say the guy again, this poor woman you're dating is lumped with all this stuff that she didn't sign up for, and she's like, how am I doing all this? This is your prep. This is your, it helps me in prep. It's like, what helps you is fucking helping yourself. Yeah. And then it actually helps the relationship. Nobody wants to feel like a slave, right? No. You know, you've done a lot for me, but when the baby came, it changed everything. I was like, oh shit, I got to, do a lot of the things that you helped me with the food and stuff like that. And, I was single way before you too. So I was doing this. When you came in and helped me, I was like, oh fuck, this is great. But I didn't kind of, depend on you to do all this. No. And I think that's where the common issue is for a lot of these guys is when they get with a girl that competes, it's like, oh, you can do this better than me, help me out, or if they don't compete. But anyway, we'll go through another few questions because time is getting on you, and I want to make sure that this is actually enjoyable for the guys and girls that are back home. We've answered some of these in different formats. Can two competitors be in a successful relationship? We kind of answered that. Yeah. How is it balancing your relationship while competing, whilst in business and having kids? Any tips?
I mean, that just goes back to, I know basically if I can relate to right now, obviously you're not in prep, but just having the baby, I know I'm the type of person that, like, I'll just do everything. Like, I'll just do it.
You are very self-motivated. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, and then the independent part of it is more like, could I ask for help? Yeah, but it's like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And then what happens is you can start get resentful, but I never asked. So it's not like I got asked and then it just never happened. So there's times where I know a flaw of mine is just to do everything and then come at you and be like, well, I get up and I do this and I do that. And you're like, well, you never asked me to feed the baby at 5, or you never asked me to
Hold on, don't make me sound like a shitbag.
No, I'm just saying when Maxim was weeks old, and I was doing certain things, instead of reaching out to you and saying, hey, do you think at 5
you can do that feed?
Can you do that so I can go back to bed, or so I can go focus on Addie, or so I can go do something else, right? Instead, I just did it. And then I went and did all the other things that I knew I had, like, responsibilities to do. But I think, from my standpoint, just asking you to do something would be, take something off my plate. So it's sharing, responsibility, shall I say, instead of just doing it all and assuming, oh, well, they're on prep, they can't do that. It's like, no, ask them, because they can. They're an individual who can do something. So I think that is a way to help balance. Going back to the question, is to help balance, like, life and kids and just this lifestyle. I don't want to say competing because you're not competing anymore. And we didn't have 2 kids when you were fully competing. So, but it's same thing when you were competing, we had Addie. It was like, all right, can you pick her up every day after school? I'm a morning person. I'll take her to school. But if you pick her up, that gives me an extra 2 hours of my day so I can train and I can get work done. Yeah. So that's like an example, because it would help you get to the gym at the time you needed to, and you would have to leave at a certain time. So that would be a situation where I just would say, you know what, this is your job in this dynamic of having a child, And
I truly think that kind of systematic approach also, and having a schedule, really helps relationships too, because when you can have time to speak to your significant other. Like when I wake up in the morning now, I know what I have to do before any thoughts of business. When I get up, I have to do X, Y, Z, and I have to do it before X time frame. Then I take my daughter to school. Then I come straight, drop my daughter off. I'm on the way to the gym. I come here and I've got meetings set up until I have to train at a certain time. And then as soon as I'm done training, it's at the meetings, and then I go into other things. So, the days of getting up and deciding if I train at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, I look back and I think to myself, fuck, man.
You had a lot of time on your hands.
I had way too much time. And even back then, I thought to myself, wow, the day is gone. Yeah. I think, what the fuck was I doing? I was like, I was getting my meals ready. But it's like, I still do that in a sense. Obviously, shout out to MegaFit meals. They've helped my career significantly. But back then, I didn't have that sponsor. And I was, when you were in school, I was preparing all my meals or whatever we were doing, and we would share the role. But now everything is so clockwork. I've got to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C before, you start your day. Certain time. And then at 3:30, whatever's going on, I don't care if it's Tyson Fury, who's at the gym, I have to leave to pick up my daughter. So I think that routine helps relationships too. It also allows you to be like, hey, my day is done. Let's chat about what we started talking about this morning or whatever else. Let's end with one question. I know I'm scanning through you guys, and I'm sure there's some really golden nuggets in these. I've got about 30 questions that I haven't even answered, but let's end with a little bit of a lighter note and something fun. Most common arguments that happen between us.
Trying to think.
It's bliss.
Yeah, exactly.
We're both headstrong, right? We are both demand a lot from one another.
Yeah,
so.
It's not really an argument, but like, I guess something that you could argue with after time management.
Yeah.
I'm pretty fairly great at time management.
Very good.
Flex struggles with that. And so over the years, I've learned how to kind of work with that. But I would say that used to just irritate me. If I'm like, all right, we got to be ready at 6. You're like, okay, great. And I'm like, and I remind you 100 times. And then 6 comes and it's 6:15. I'm like, oh, we're in the car and we're late or something. I know that would be something that we argue. Yes. Yeah, that we'd argue about. Now I know how to tell them times, and most of our clocks in our house are pushed back forward 15 minutes, which drives me crazy, but it works for him. So like, I would say one argument would have been for me, like the time management, aspect, or feeling like I'm late. We're going to be late. Like I just don't like that. That's like a personality thing for me. Like I like to be like way on time, if not before.
What's the saying? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late.
Yes. So I would say that's the first thing that comes to my head.
Well, just to add to that, though, with the time side of things, and this little tip for guys who struggle, and girls who struggle with procrastination, my phone never stops. Never stops. I have multiple ways of communication with me. Emails, texts, DMs, fucking loads of different social media apps, right? So there's always going to be that distraction. And my wife, in fairness, will always give me the heads up. She'll say, hey, we have to go by this time. So what I've done with the clocks, even, regardless of what Ali says, for me to make sure that I get to these business endeavors, get to business meetings, I've put all my clocks forward 15 minutes at the house. Well, you can say, well, flex. It's 15 minutes forward, but I don't. I look at that clock and I'm like, shit, I got to go. Yeah. So I'm always the first to drop off my daughter at school, or one of the first. I get to the gym every day like clockwork at 9:15 when I was dropping her off anyway at camp. Now it's going to be 8:15 every single day, because the time of me leaving the house, dropping my daughter off, and then leaving from the school now to the gym is everything is bang on. Unless there's some, car crash or some issue on the 215, then I'm going to be late. But I've learned that being early allows me to get to the gym, for example, if I have a meeting, get myself situated. I don't know what I'm walking into. We're very blessed to have fans that come in from all over the world. It allows me to, as I said, get myself situated and basically organized, prepare myself.
Yeah. But what was one of the fights? So I said the whole concept about time management for me. And then what was one for you in terms of what our arguments would be about? I don't know, focus.
Idiots. Yeah, that's a perfect example right there. We're in the middle of a podcast. It says recording on the door, and then somebody's knocking my bloody door.
Who cares?
My ADHD kicks in.
What would be another argument? Mine would be, like I said, I feel like we would have like a tiff about like the whole time management. What would yours be?
In terms of time management?
No, about an argument.
I'm sorry, that threw me off. You know how I am. This is a perfect example of my life. I suffer with really bad ADHD.
Yeah.
And, staying focused on one particular thing without 100 things going on. And I can multitask, but unfortunately, multitasking is not a strength of mine either, but I can still do a lot of shit.
No, you start a lot of things.
I do. And everybody who is close to me all has succumbed to the whole flex text. where I'll start something,
They see the
I'll
bubble.
get a call, and then that text never gets finished. And unfortunately, I've done it to some, left some really key conversations hanging because of me getting distracted. So that's something I'm working on. But again, it helps the relationship, right? And in terms of, what was the question? Just tips?
Like arguments. Like what would be like things that you would argue about? But I guess that those are all kind of really them. Time management rolls into not staying focused or your ADHD. So I guess
distraction for me. I think with you, you'd always kind of be like, babe, can you get off the phone? Because I'm like, just give me a second, because I can't listen to her without digesting. I'll be like autopilot. And I know, guys, we're all guilty of doing that with our girls. And then she'll ask me, what did I say? And I'll regurgitate the last 3 words of the sentence.
Or you'll say hold on in your head and you don't say hold on. You're like, I just told you to hold on. I'm like, you literally have not said a word.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I did. And I'm like, yeah, in your head. So yeah, those are probably like what we would get in little like arguments about.
Yeah. I'm trying to think with you, what kind of annoys me?
Nothing. So we're gonna wrap this podcast.
No, I'm trying to think of something. I mean, with us, it's whatever we kind of had of we've addressed it, and it's not like something that's make or break. It's just like I don't know what it'd be.
I don't stop.
It's kind of like the small nonsense stuff. It's not something that affects the relationship enough to be like, babe, come on. But obviously, time management is something that can. Whatever else we said, getting distracted like I'm fucking doing right now. Well, anyways, guys, I appreciate you jumping on.
Yes.
This has been another ramble from, start to end. But, I hope you guys enjoy this kind of Q&A. This is something that, that's new to us, but it seems like it's very popular in the comment section. So we wanted to jump on and get another one to you, answer your questions. And if there's something you want to see again, comment below. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment or leave us a question. So if we end up doing another one.
You could also watch it on YouTube and Spotify.
Absolutely.
So.
YouTube and Spotify. Episode 13. Out.